Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to take on another one of reels that was sent in. This is the Penn Squall 15. It's been around for a couple of years now, and this one's just in for its annual tune-up. So we'll take it apart, we'll show you how it comes together, how to service this reel if you have one, and what the features are of this reel if you're thinking about getting one. So the Squall is an upper end of the Penn line. It's a nice open-faced casting reel without the level wind feature, and it's good for surf, and it's good for trolling, and it's good for inshore fishing for some fairly heavy fish. Nice leveraged handle on it, nice clean low-profile design. The design kind of looks a little bit like some of the Newell reels of old, and I personally like the format to that. So let's get started with this, and we get started by taking off the exterior pieces. In this case, first was the nut guard, then the handle nut, now the handle, and behind that is a series of two washers. They're little flex washers. So what you want to do as you're doing this is a couple of things. One of them, I have a protective glove on my hand. The second thing you want to do is keep a parts tray nearby so you can put all the pieces and parts that you take off of your reel in there. And then finally, what I recommend is that you take a picture along the way at convenient points or critical points where you're doing something and you may not remember what the sequence is of the reassembly. So take your time, take pictures, go out and find a schematic for the reel. They're available. This is not the schematic for this reel, but they're available, and you can find them on mysticparts.com for one source, and that will show you the burst diagram of this, so that as you go to reinstall, you can look there if you get stuck in terms of the sequence or the orientation of a particular piece or part. So I would recommend that you go do that as well. So now we have the star adjuster comes off. There's a little click mechanism behind this. This has got a lot of grease on it. It's not necessary. I'm not sure why all that grease is there, but I'm cleaning it off as we go along. These are parts that don't need to be greased. They're not subject to wear. And actually that grease on the click mechanism will probably quiet that down. So we also want to notice this is kind of in a bucket format. There's a high and a low part, and it sat like that in there where the click was up when you go to reinstall. So it's those little things that pictures help you with. And then we should have two flex washers underneath. This aids in the tensioning of the sensitivity behind that drag adjuster. They're concave, they're not flat. They can go in a variety of directions. This one had the face-to-face. You can put them opposite and you can see the spacing between there, or you can nest them for the least amount of flexibility. So these came face-to-face. I'm going to put them back that way and put them into the tray as well. So wiping that all down, now we can get to the point where we can take the side plate off and go take a look on the inside of this. So there's two screws behind here for the side plate. There's two screws here. They all have to be removed in order to remove the side plate. So Ernest sent this one in. He's a fellow that's been sending a few of these in. You've seen some of the videos that I've done regarding his reels, and this is another one. It's a good example of the Penn line and the types of reels that they have out there. Now if you're following along, if you have one of these and you get a little intimidated, why don't you go ahead and send me an email if you have a question about that we're not covering on this video. I'll certainly be happy to answer it. And just like Ernest, I do repair reels online, so from online viewers. So if you have one and you don't want to tackle it, but you'd like to have it tuned up and the like, shoot me a note and we can give you the particulars of that as well. Okay, this last one is painful here because it's got the rod clamp on it and I can't get to that, so let's take the rod clamp off, and that'll help us to go ahead and get to that should be able to grab that screw now. There we go. So I've laid those screws out on the table here to make sure that they're the same size. They're not. These screws that go behind are a smaller screw than the ones that go on the front case. So you want to note that. And they're also shorter. But as far as the two within the position, they are the same size, so you don't have to worry about that when you go to reinstall. That should do it then. Let's go ahead and put this back on here just for fun, so we don't lose that piece. And we should be able to remove the side plate now. I think this is the one that's hiding a screw up here. Yep. So I'm going to take the throw lever off here. Every now and then you get these reels that do just that. They're hiding something behind there, and you're going to go try and kill yourself pulling the side plate off. It's not going to work because there's a little screw up on top, and there it is. It's a little Phillips head. Let's see if we can get it out with my Phillips head screwdriver first. We can. So this is a number 1 Phillips head screwdriver. It's a small one, but if you don't have that, you can go to the micro screwdrivers. This would be an example of the micro screwdrivers. They're available generally at most hardware stores, and that opens it up then, so we can pull the side plate off. Other than a pile of grease in here that probably has been over greased, the reel looks like it's in pretty good condition. I'm just pointing here, you'll just see that there's just gobs of grease here, and you know, over time that's not a good thing. So this has just been over greased. What happens is that you'll get contamination in there. No matter how hard you try, it's going to be in there, and what's going to happen with that is that it's going to slide. It's going to grab the salt or the micro sand. It's going to clog the channels, and it's going to result in poor maintenance. It's going to rip up the metal parts and generally be a disaster. So just be aware of that. I'm also noticing here as we've taken this off that this drag washer is kind of floating there. Now hopefully that's just because of the way we took this off. Alright, we're going to pull the main gear off then. I'm going to lay that down here. I'm going to pull off the yoke and the spool gear. Notice the orientation again. This long side is coming towards the back end of the plate. I'm going to put these on my good old trusty board for a moment, clean this stuff off. You want to check these gears. These are some pretty heavy gearing here, but you want to make sure that as you look at these that the teeth are uniform. These kind of have an S curve to them in terms of the drive. You want to make sure that they're clean, that they're not chipped or otherwise broken. So we've got one more piece on the whole face here. We're going to take that off just to get underneath it because of all of this grease. This is the jack. And I'm going to just wipe all that extra grease off. And I'm going to use a cotton tip just to come behind there and clean the rest of that off. So too much grease traps stuff, too little grease causes the same effect, right? It'll grind down the metal parts. So you have to kind of just the right amount of grease, and light skim coating generally will do the job, especially if you're doing annual service on it. The grease isn't going to evaporate or wear out during that time. So, all right, I'm going to put that back in. I'm going to grab the yoke now. Put a little bit on both sides of that. Take the spool gear. We'll get some in there, and as you can see, I'm not globbing it on like it was globbed on the other way. You don't need it. It's pretty much a waste of grease. It only gets pressed out anyway. You can put that over the spool and onto the side plate mechanism. We can come turn our attention then to the drag stack. So here's another case of just a ton of grease here. Let's go ahead and get that off. So this washer is oblong inside, and if you look at the shaft on the gear plate here, that is also oblong, and you will not be effective unless you seat that properly. You'll have a wobble in your main gear, and if you've got a wobble in your main gear, you'll understand that it was because of that. It's a hard washer. This does not need grease, so we'll go ahead and put that down. And then we have our drag stack here. So we've probably got a bunch of grease on the back here. Let's wipe that down, and then we can just take that drag stack. And easy enough to do is usually just turn it over and press it out, and that'll keep the sequence of your drag washers there. And these are HT100s, so you can do two things with these. You can put them in dry if you want, but you can also use a dry grease to promote the flexibility of them and keep them flexible, and as a result of that, prolong the life. So we're going to go ahead and do that here. And I'm just putting some grease onto the teeth of the main gear, and doing the same thing that I did with that spool gear. I'm checking to make sure that all the teeth are uniform, not worn, and the like. And then we can reseat this back onto the post. Okay, I'm going to use Cal's Universal Dry Grease for the drag washers. They're in good condition. They don't need to be replaced. I think Ernest told me he's had the reel a couple of years. This is the first time it's being serviced. I kind of wonder about that because I don't think that all that grease came from the factory, but it may have. Factories tend to over lubricate their reels just because they don't want them to fail in the warranty period. So they tend to go big or go home, if you will. And it's quite possible that that was installed in the factory that way. It was a darker grease, so it's been there a while, so it is possible. Okay, next one up is this the circular washer, and we got a second one here. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of dipping them in. I'm using my gloved hand as a tool. I'm spreading the dry grease that way, and then I'm wiping off the excess with a paper towel. You don't want to leave globs of that on there. It's only going to press out when you go to do the tightening down on the adjuster. It's just going to press the grease right out. So folks have asked me, do I repair reels through the quote-unquote internet or email or mail order or whatever it is, and the answer is I do. It's interesting. I started this to pass along my knowledge and to make sure that folks that want to repair their own reels have a resource to do that. And I've had questions from folks that say I have no interest in doing the reel repair, but I do have an interest in having my reel repaired, and I do that. So if you're interested, again, contact me through my email. I'll be happy to work with you on that. Okay, so we want to just clean up the stuff on the back of this. I use that paper towel again to get some of the high spots of that grease, and you can see there's a lot of grease on here. So I don't know again if that's factory or if it's first time through that somebody over lubed it, but regardless, just clean it up. It serves no purpose being just tied to the case here. Alrighty, then we have a gear sleeve here, and we have the anti-reverse gear clutch underneath. I'm going to put a couple of drops of oil there. I'm going to use Real X oil for that. I've been using Penn Universal reel grease for the reel itself, the blue grease, and Cal's drag grease for the drags. Okay, to reinstall them, we just take those two springs. I don't know why I want to call springs screws, but I do. And then we want to check to make sure that we can get this stud aligned. We got to put the case on. It's got to be aligned into the I'm just struggling here. I took this off to get the there we go. Took that off to get the side plate trim ring off to get to the screw, that was holding it back here, and when I did that I lost the feature of that. So what I'm doing here is I've moved this up to the top spot, I've moved the stud up to the top spot. I should be able now to just kind of mate it and have it work that way. Yep, we got it the first time. That's very unusual. Okay, so now we're going to reinstall the side plate screws. We had the two heavier ones. Oh, I got to put the little one in first because you have to put the trim ring on. So this was the little one that was hiding behind the free spool release there. And you got to hold your hand on the case while you're doing this because those springs still want to push the case clear. And because of the nature of this setup, we're going to go ahead and take one of the ones from the back and put that in as well. And then we can take our hand off and we'll have the right pressure for this. So let's just complete that side of it. Okay, I'm going to take this off again. Kind of an iterative process. It's sort of reversing out what we did on the way in, but take your time, set it up, make sure it's done to your satisfaction. It's a relatively simple reel. It's a high quality reel. You soften the pieces and parts there. That the gearing is very nice. It looks like stainless, and at least it's stainless on this spool gear. It looks like quality parts, and it doesn't look like the drag washers have worn that much at all. So easy enough to access if you know about that little hidden screw there, and certainly easy enough on that side to do the service on. I'll put this back together again. I like to keep my customers' pieces and parts together as much as I can. Let's see if we can slip this in now without pulling that off. We can. Alright, good. Now we can just snap that in, and we get the two screws that belong on the side plate here. And we'll be able to put the rest of this assembly on, go over the other side, service the spool, and service the back side plate. So where there's bearings back there, you don't want to miss them on an annual service. Nice reel overall though. I think this is a great shore casting reel. Put this one on a 10-foot pole, and I probably can throw it a mile. And that's kind of the fishing I enjoy, is the surf casting with the conventional reels. And if you enjoy that kind of thing, then and you're in the market for a reel, this is a good reel to look for. Okay, the two of those flex come in, and then we had this click mechanism. Again, the top was facing outward, and then we put the adjuster on. You gotta make sure it seats right as you're going to install. Then I use the handle to hold the gear shaft as I tighten down. Now we got the clicker engaged there, all good. Take the handle off so we can put those other two washers on. Back to the handle nut. So there's two major steps now. You at the lower end of this Penn line, you still have the Jig Master out there as an open and conventional reel. Nice reel all around. It stood the test of time. Great for bottom fishing. You can cast that reel. It doesn't have the bearings that these others have, but you can shore cast that if you're interested in using it that way. It's a high-speed retrieve, so you get the advantage of being able to run lures for big fish off of that. Not as high speed as this one, but it's in that category that's called high speed, and it's been around for a long time. It's perfect in multiple types of uses. I'm going to just tighten this up now. As we loosen that down, and we can go over to the other side. So you have the Squall. The Squall comes in both a a star drag and a lever drag. I recently did a lever drag on the Squall 40. You can see that video out there if you're interested in taking a look at what the lever drag setup is. And you also have the Penn Fathom is currently in that line. There's another one out there, I don't think it's in the line any longer. It's the Warfare. I think that one kind of came and went. I think that was a value priced entry into this market, and I don't think that they're around anymore. But anyway, if you look, those would be your three choices. Certainly in the used market you can find all three of those, but the Squall and the Fathom are the two that get the most attention these days. Okay, just want to grab that trim ring. We should be able to pull the side plate off now. We've got the screws off. Here's the screws. And here's what I wanted to get to here. I've got the spool gear. You see we couldn't access the spool from this side because of the hard plate that we were working on there. But we can do the rest of it here. I want to put a couple of drops inside the spool here. The oil again. If you needed to replace this, you can pull this out. There's a C-ring. You can just about see it here, but there's a C-ring you can pull that whole assembly out, but you don't need to do that. And there's also a bearing in on this side. I'm just going to use this to drop it down and lubricate it if it was something that needed to be repaired or replaced. Again, you could pull this one off as well. And let's try and get this back in now. I don't like these. These get knotted up, and I understand why folks do that, but when you go to service a reel, it becomes inconvenient. It usually gets trapped as you got to reinstall. On this side, we have the shaft. We have the click mechanism. This seems perfectly greased, so I'm going to just kind of leave it there. And it's hard to tell. I'm not sure if we have a bearing. We don't have a bearing. That's the clutch mechanism there, I believe. Nope, this is the magnetic clutch here. Okay, I'll put a drop of oil in there. I'm not sure what's in there, if anything. And then we can go reinstall. Just line it up. It sits in nicely. Go ahead and grab the trim ring. Trim ring is not symmetrical. There's a bump out here. That's for the mag adjuster. And then we have the 4 screws, which we simply go to the parts tray for, and put those back together. So that's the Penn Squall. And that's me with small pieces and screws. So we'll work on that one as best we can. Penn Squall 15. It's the smallest of the Squall reels. Nice compact one. This one's got monofilament on it. It can certainly be used with braid. If you do use braid, make sure you back the braid so that it doesn't result in braid slip on the spool. But it certainly is braid capable, and it could be more significant capacity. I put the wrong screw in there. There's 2 different sizes. We were making that point before. There's 2 different sizes. The small sizes, the large sizes go into the crossbar on each side. The smaller ones go north and south on the reel, or in this case the way it's oriented, east and west. And they will fit, but they're not going to fit properly if you put the wrong ones in the wrong hole. Alrighty. So a little trouble getting that one seated. I always seem to have trouble with these small screws. This one's no different. And one more screw and this reel's done. So Ernest, your reels are going to be shipped back to you. They're in good condition and they're ready to go fishing. So I hope you enjoy these. I hope those of you that are watching enjoyed the video. If you do like it, please indicate that. Please subscribe. That subscriptions are what keeps my channel going. If you need to contact me, please use the comments, and welcome comments, even if it's not on this reel. If it's just comments in general, I'll be happy to answer them to the extent that I know the answers to it, or to direct you along the way. So here we go. There's the free spool. in gear, tighten it down, make sure those drag washers are fine, and this one's ready for another season on the shores of, I think, Virginia, if I remember. So with that, I'm going to thank you for watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.